What's up, party people? Strobe Kentarian here, and this is going to be a little bit of a follow-up to the previous video I did, which was a tutorial on how you can utilize the replay mode in Tekken 8 to improve your overall gameplay. Now, if you missed that video, don't worry, I got you covered. The link to that video is going to be in the description file below, and much like the last video, I'm going to be breaking this one up into chapters, so if there's anything that you would like to go directly to, you can do just that and skip everything else. Now, if you enjoy this type of content, please like, share, and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment, whether it's a suggestion or a tip or even a snarky comment. I love anything that I can get from you guys, and it makes my day when I see any response. But with that, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this video. In my last video, when I was talking about replays, there were a couple of display windows that I talked about that I felt I didn't do a great job of explaining everything thoroughly. And that was the attack information and the frame data information. So in this video, I'm going to explain those fields a little bit more, but also understand that those fields are also in the practice menu. So you can use them in both the replay and the practice mode. And what my goal is to help you to understand how you can utilize that data to understand your opponent and your own character so you can make better decisions out there on the battlefield. So with that, let's get started. Now, to start the explanation of the portions that I felt that I missed, that will be actually really good for a player to learn how to utilize in practice mode and also in the replay mode, is once again the attack information and the frame information. So one of the things that I actually didn't really cover very well in the attack information are the 4 different statuses that are down at the very bottom. And when they activate, or when the status is met, they'll actually go from this grayed out color to a gold or yellowish color. First, let's talk about what these statuses are and explain them in case you are unaware of what these meanings are. So for clean, we're actually going to have to switch characters, and we're going to choose Paul. And the reason is because for a clean hit, only certain characters inside of the game actually have the ability to do a clean hit, and only very specific moves can do that. Now for Paul, his move that he can do it with is Death Fist, which is this right here. The input is quarter circle forward and right punch, or 2 as it's called. Now, if it's done far enough away, nothing happens. You see that down here, the clean hit did not actually activate. But if I'm close to the opponent, it will give me the icon for clean hit. You saw that it shined yellow or gold, whatever color you think that more closely represents. But that will tell you that it's a clean hit. Now, what does it really mean? Basically, it just means that you get a little bit more damage. The further away you are when the move contacts, for Paul at least, the less damage it does. We see right here for the damage that since I was far away, it did 30 damage. But if I'm close, I can do 45 damage. So that is a clean hit. And with that, we will conclude our demonstration with Paul, and we will go back to our regularly scheduled main character of Xiaoyu. Right, quick transition back to Xiaoyu. Now, the others, we have counter, punish, and wall. Let's explain those real quick. Counter means that you hit the opponent while they are trying to do a move. So to do an example, we're going to set up our dummy to do a move real quick. So duck and the move. And we did it, first try. Alright, so this is going to be the difference between counter and punish. We have our dummy set up with one specific move. And so for counter, that means we interrupt the opponent's move before it can come out. So we'll have her do it, duck. And then what we need to do is when she ducks, hit her, and we see the counter come out because I'm hitting her before she can actually hit me. Right? So if I do it too early, we don't see the counter because I have to let her try to do the move. Now, the difference between a counter and a punish is during a punish, I hit the character while they're in recovery. Now, recovery frames means that the character has to fully go through all the frames needed to recover, and we'll explain how you can determine how many frames a specific move will allow for recovery a little bit later. But just for a quick demonstration to show you the punish is when she does this, we see if I hit her with the shoulder, I'm hitting her before she can recover, which means she can't actually block this. She can't block it, she can't sidestep it. So this is a great way of understanding later when we're talking about taking over for your replays, taking control of it, whether or not the punish that you do is actually real or if it's giving you a false positive based off of the fact that your opponent might be pushing buttons during the replay. But we'll cover that a little bit more in depth a little bit later. And then our last is the wall. And the wall is pretty simple. Either the opponent hit the wall at some point during the combo, or they're already on the wall being hit during the combo. And that covers these 4 statuses in the attack window. Now, with that, we're going to move on to our next point. So for our next point, I want to talk about the frame status window. So we talked a little bit about the attack information window, but the frame status window that I didn't really cover very well in the last video was these 2 lines, the attack startup frames and the frame advantage. Now we'll go in these very specifically. The attack startup frames is telling you how long it takes for a specific move to actually start and finish in its completion. So for example, we have Xiaoyu do a jab. Right? This is just her standing 1. This tells you right here that that move takes 10 frames from start to finish. Now, this is important because in Tekken, generally, the fastest moves in the game are 10 frames for every character. Now, there are some very rare and few exceptions. Xiaoyu actually happens to have one of the exceptions. If you hit back 1 with her, she does this little step back, but you see that this move is actually 8 frames, which kind of goes against the fastest move in the game being 10 frames. But in general, all your jabs, your normal attacks, the fastest is going to be 10 frames. Now, this is different from your frame advantage. Now, your frame advantage is basically how you mathematically can figure out whether or not your opponent, you or your opponent, is safe or punishable. So if I do this jab, it says that I'm +8. But first, in order to actually get this done correctly, we need to put the dummy in all block everything so we can actually see this. So when we hit into Reina's block, we see that this says +1, which means I have a 1 frame advantage. Now, how that works is if I do this move and then Reina and I both hit the same move that have the exact same frame. So if I do this and another jab at the same time, because I have a 1 frame advantage, my move will still take 10 frames, but because I'm +1, I get basically a bonus point. And so that bonus point takes off of how much frames that I need to have. So it's really a minus. It gives me a 1 frame advantage, so I lose a frame. So it might be confusing, but if you're a negative frame, you have to add that value to whatever the number is. If it's a positive frame, then you subtract that to get the actual frame. And what we can do to kind of help see that a little bit better is we go to the displays and we go to the opponent frame. We're going to turn the opponent's frame information on. So when I hit Reina, we see that she becomes -1, I become +1. So when my next attack occurs, if we both hit this jab at the same time and they're both 10 frames, mine will be at a 9 frame to complete, while Reina's will be at 11 frames to complete, meaning that mine finishes quicker, so I would win and it would not be a trade. Right? So that's kind of the basics of how that works. Now, how can you put those into together to figure out whether or not something is punishable or not? Now, if any move in Tekken with the thought process that 10 frames is the minimum speed for any move to come out, that means that you have to be at least -9 frames advantage in order to be safe. So for Xiaoyu, fortunately, we have her forward 3, which is -9. Now, because of that, -9, if I set Reina up to punish, and I'm going to set her up to punish and do a jab. So we set up the dummy to respond with a jab after she blocks a hit. Now, if we do this correctly, I will win every time because, as we stated earlier, this jab leaves me +1. And so if we jab at the same time, I will win every single time if we push the button at the exact same time. Because I have a 1 frame advantage, Reina has a 1 frame disadvantage, meaning that I have, in theory, I have really a 9 frame jab versus Reina having an 11 frame jab. So 9 finishes quicker than 11, so whichever move finishes quicker will win, right? And again, we said that the fastest move is, in general, is 10 frames. So this move right here, Reina should never be able to hit me if I do this move against her, because it is safe, because it's -9, as we see right here. Now, if I do this move and she blocks it, that's -11. So no matter how many times I do that, even if I hold block, and you can see right here that I'm holding back, and I'm going to hold back and hit this button and continue to hold back, right? So, but when I do that, I get hit, and I will be hit every single time because frame-wise, I'm at a disadvantage, so she's doing a move that will punish me. Also, if we bring up the display, the attack information for the opponent, we could see that I'm getting punished every single time, right? You see how this is flashing punish? And that's because I'm at such a frame disadvantage that I can't recover in time. There's nothing I can do. I can't block, I can't hit, I can't do any other move because I'm still in recovery. So, we're going to go into a little bit further on how you can actually dig deeper into your characters to figure out what moves are punishable from your opponent. Now, this is where extensive lab time can come really handy. Now, the punishment guide that is in the game, if you go into your practice setting, so we can go to punishment training. Now, punishment training is actually really decent when it comes to just kind of getting a handle on some of the stuff. Now, it has a list of preset punishes that are in the game. So, if I click here, you can put some on and take some off. I think you can. I don't know if you can actually add some or not, but basically what this does is if you go through this training, it will show the move, it will tell you how to punish it, and then it will let you punish it, and then it will move to the next move, and it'll go through all the different moves until it rotates around and you just continue doing it. And that's the normal mode. Hard mode is pretty much the same thing, except for it's going to mix up the moves that it's going to throw at you, and then whether or not you punish it correctly or not, it will continue to rotate through. So you just have to be able to remember specifically which one it is. But again, it's only 15 moves, and if we look at the move list for Xiaoyu, go to the bottom, of the technique. There's 140 different moves, right? Again, not all the moves are punishable, but I guarantee you every character has more than 15 moves that can be punished. So what you can do is you can learn how to punish moves on your own by understanding the frame status and the frame advantages. Now, most characters will have, I would say, 3 or 4 specific punishes while they're standing and performing a while standing move. And we'll get into the while standing moves later. Now, most characters will have what they say is your 10 frame punish, your 12 frame punish, your 14 frame punish, and usually a 15 frame or more punish. Those are pretty standard when it comes to Tekken. Now, for Ling Xiaoyu, she had her 10 frame punish is her jab. So it's a 1 down 2. Her 12 frame punish is her shoulder. Her 14 frame punish is her standing 3, right? And then her 15 plus frame punish are her rising hands, right? And so if we look at this, we see the reason why I say this is take a look at her. Where's my mouse? Take a look at her frame startup. So we have 10 frame punish, 12 frame punish, 14 frame punish, and then we have our 15 plus. And this one's hard to see because it goes to the second move automatically, but you see it for a brief second. It goes 15, 16 to 5, 6, right? So those are our punishes. And so what we're going to do, I've looked up some moves and we're going to program these in here real quick and show you how you can utilize the frame data and the frame advantage and the startup frames to come up with your own punishes for these different situations. So once we set up the dummy with all these different moves, we're going to display how we can get these to work. So first, what we want to do is we want to go to defense. Actually, let me go back. So typically, by default, you're set to offensive training, so you can practice combos and all that kind of cool stuff. But what we want to do is we want to set up our defensive training. So we're going to go to defense, and in here we have the opponent's moves that we can utilize. All right, so we're going to set up some moves. And so there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can record. You can select the move from a move list, and from here you can go to Reina's move list and then select a specific move or string. Or you can record, which is what I would recommend, because 1, it gets you to understand how the string is actually performed, and 2, you can get a lot more flexibility in what you want to do. So right here, now I have control of Reina in the record, and if I want to start recording, right down here says the input for me, so I'll start recording. Now, one of the moves that I want to do is we're going to do 2 10 frame moves from Reina. So the first one is 1 plus 2, and then we're going to hold back. Now let's do it again so we get a little bit clean. So 1 plus 2, and then hold back to block. Hit start, and now we have that recorded. Now the check to make sure it works, we're gonna play it. And now she should just do that every time. And so we see after she does the move, she walks back, and that is letting us know that she is going to attempt the block after doing this move. So the next one, we're going to do the string of 2-2. And if you screw up, you can just record again. So, and we're gonna go through the remainder of the moves. I'm not gonna explain all of them in this, but by the time this is all done, this will all be filled out. All right, so everything is now been pre-recorded. All the actions are now input in there, and we're going to go through each one by one. Now, to make sure that we get the correct action that we have in there, you see how these values are all at 0? Well, you can up them from 1 to 10, and basically 0 means that the action will not actually take place at all in frequency, and then 1 will be basically, if you think about it as a percentage, like 10% of the time this one move will come out, and then all the way up to 10 being like 100% of the time that move will come out in comparison to the other moves. Now, granted, it's not an actual scale because it's not really a percentage, but the higher the number, the more frequent it will come out. And if it's at 0, it won't happen at all. So how we can utilize this is we can change this to 1, and we know that only this first move will come out when we actually do the replay. So we'll go here, and again, this is our 1 plus 2. So 1 plus 2, so what we need to do is to understand when we block it, we see we're plus 10, right? So you don't actually need to see your opponent's frame of data to understand what it is. Really, what you need to understand is what is the frame advantage for you, and then what frame startup do you have? And now we saw it did hit 9 one time, and that's because it was spaced out. And we'll show that if it's spaced out, right? I'll try to space it to where it barely grazes me. So because it was 9, that means it wasn't punishable because it was spaced off, and so the frame advantage was a little bit less. But generally, it's going to be 10. So because of this, 10, I can punish it. And we see that the punish icon is coming up whenever I do this move. So this lets us know that this is actually a good punish. Right? So we'll go to the next move. Turn this on. So this string is a high. And so this is where I will actually show as well, if you see this in a replay and you notice the high and the game tells you, hey, you can duck this string in order to and punish it. The way you know that it is an actual good punish is you have to see that punish come up. So first we'll demonstrate that. So the game tells us, hey, it's a mid-high and you can punish it. So we see it, we duck it, and we try to punish. So once we see the yellow come up, that means it's a good punish. But the problem with this theory is if, for example, your opponent in the middle of the game, they were attacking you and they got a hit on you, chances are they're not going to try to block if they're hitting you. Therefore, that's where you can get that false positive, is if you hit them, right, you duck it and come up, but you don't see this yellow punish come up, that means that chances are it's actually not a good punish. You just probably caught them pushing buttons, and you'll probably see a counter actually show up versus a punish. So just be cautious of that while doing replays. But we see that this is plus 11, right? So plus 11, it recovers quick and too fast for us to do shoulder, so we can't do that. She recovers too fast because this is a 12 frame move. But what we can do is our 10 frame punish, right? Because our 10 frame punish is still fast enough that we can actually hit this player, right? So we'll go a little bit quicker now and show all the different punishes. So the next punish is going to be our 12 frame, all right? So this is a 12, we see we're plus 12, so we're gonna do our 12 frame move, which is the shoulder, right? 12 frames, we can punish. Now we're gonna move to our 14 frame punishes. Now, with Xiaoyu, and this is different for every character, Xiaoyu has a 14 frame launch punisher from while she's standing. So if we have Reina do this move, right, the little headbutt, I can punish and get a full combo off of it. Right? So full combo if I, don't go too quick. Right, so 54 damage off of a punish. It's quite a bit of damage, right? So, but this is not the only move that Reina has that can be punished like this. So let's check out some other ones. Right, this move also a 14 frame punish. Right? I'm not gonna do the full combo, but you get the point. If you see this string, that is pretty much launch punishable. Here's another one. Right, this move 14 plus 14. So if I wait for it, also launch punishable. Right, if I see that come out, I can punish it. So even in some cases, if I get hit by certain portions of the move, right, so I get hit by the first two, I can still block the rest of it in time if I just patient. As long as I don't get hit by that third mid. So if I get hit by the first two, bam, bam, block, I can still punish. Right, so we see this is plus 17. Right, so plus 17 is my big launcher. So this move is plus 15. It's 15 frames. Right, I can get almost 70 damage because of this. And that's not even using any resources, right? And so the last one we're going to show is Reina's little crouch kick, right? This right there also leaves me plus 17. So because of that, I can launch punish again. Right? 69 damage if I block that and recognize it. Now, these are all for moves that are just standing. Now, while standing. So before we get into that, what is a while standing move? Well, we have standing moves, we have crouching moves. In between the time where your opponent, or not your opponent, in between the time where your character is going from crouching to standing, if you hit a button, they will do another move that's not their standing move, nor is it their crouching move. These are called the while standing moves because they do it while they stand back up. And these moves can be done either if your opponent does a move that forces you into a crouch condition, right? So we see our status is crouching down here and standing, right? So when shifting between crouching to standing, some attacks will force you into a crouching stance. And if you hit an attack while you're coming back up, you'll do this while standing move. Or if you block a move while crouching and you want to attack them, you can do a while standing move. Now, while standing moves are generally a bit slower than your standing moves, but a lot of times the moves that they're designed to catch are also have higher negative frames to them, so you can still punish them. And I have a few moves that are there. Now, the standard for most characters, if you don't know which punish you can do while standing 4, which is a move in some ways, and it's usually the fastest. It's usually your fastest punish, coming from the while standing. So this is 11 frames, right? Pretty quick. So if you don't know what it is, you don't know which punish to utilize, chances are you can at least use this to get something. You're not going to get a whole lot off of it. You're not going to get a juggle out of it, but you can at least get them, especially if an opponent just tries to hit you low or crouch block, kick you in the legs. You can utilize that to get a relatively safe counter that is almost guaranteed, really. As a punishment. I'm sorry, not counter, punishment. Let me utilize my phrasing correctly. Now, for this, once again, we're going to set up Reina to do some specific moves, and we're going to show that the frame, how you can see what the frame advantage is for yourself, and based off of those moves, which ones you should utilize. So first, let's check out most of Xiaoyu's while standing moves that she can utilize. Now again, if you use a different character, you can go through the same process and figure out which moves you have to do certain things. So for Xiaoyu, again, her universal, I don't know what the frame is, but I need to punish it. It's going to be her while standing 4, right? While standing 4 is 11 frames, right? Her next move is a 12 to 13 frame while standing punishment, and that is her while standing 1 into 4. So while standing 1 is 12 frames, right? So if it's 12 frames, if you have a 12 frame advantage or more, you'll be able to do this, and then you can hit while standing 1 into 4, and it'll automatically combo. So you won't have to worry about it whiffing, right? Her 14 frame, if you have a move that is 14 frames, is her while standing 1+2. So X marks the spot. So we see the first hit is 14 frames, anywhere between 14 to 15 frames, right? So we do this, and then last is our 22 frame move. And yes, I said 22 frames, which is an eternity, but you're going to see there are some moves that if you block them will leave your opponent severely in recovery, and this gives you plenty of time to be able to pull this move off. So with Xiao, if you do while standing hold 4, you see that it's 22 to 23 frames. You see this is extremely slow, right? But we're also going to notice that when we program these moves in, that Reina, if blocked, has some moves that she takes a long time to recover. So first, we're going to set up these slots, and then we're going to come right back to it. All right, all the actions have been recorded. So now let's check out what moves Reina has, and disclaimer, these are not all of Reina's moves that can be punished. There are more that exist out there. These are just the samples that I chose for her. So we're gonna go with this first one. And so of course this is gonna be a low, so we have to see that we have to block it low. Now, Reina doesn't have any moves that are minus 11. So basically the while standing 4 will work on pretty much everything, but we have better punishes that can work. So with plus 13, we have our 12 to 13 frame punish, which is our while standing 1-4, right? This will work every single time if we block this move. So our next one is going to be, all right, so we have the string. So it's that high, high, middle, and then low, right? So this is the 2-2-2, but this is, instead of 2-2-2-2, this is 2-2-2-2-2-3, right? So these first two hits jail, I can't duck them. So I guess, and so there's one punish, but we can also do standing, while standing, but we see when we block this is plus 18, so we can do our 16 frame punish, which is X marks the spot, which is 32 damage versus 24 damage. So we get more damage off of this because it's a harder punish, right? Takes a little bit longer, but this is what we can do. So X marks the spot. Anything that is 14 frames or more, we can do X marks the spot. Right? So this is something to be cautious of, right? So this is a mid, right? Same string, mid, and we block low. So just be careful of this, because if you try to block low, you can get nailed by that fourth punch. So just a disclaimer, right? You can't duck mids in this game. So just be cautious of that move. That string, because she might not do the low attack, but she might do the mid, and so you can get hit by it. So it's pretty much a guessing game. All right, our next one right? So you're going to see this move a lot from Reina players, right? This down forward, or down back 2, right? So we got to block low, but we see it's plus 16, which means I can X marks the spot this move if I happen to block it, right? So my 16 frame punish works on this, right? So this move right here, plus 14, right? So remember, with our 14 frame punish, because it's standing, right? So if I duck this, I will get hit, right? So I can't while standing this, even though it looks low, it hits mid, right? So it jails, meaning that after the first one hits, I can't duck the second one. So you have to basically just eat this, but it's plus 14, a 14 frame punish right there, right? I can shoulder it if I'm not sure, and then worst case scenario, I can do that, right? Not really gonna get a while standing off of this, but just to show you, there are some moves that will low profile that you are not gonna be able to while standing. So if I try to duck this, I will get hit. And then our last move that we have, another move that Reina players love to use, is this hell sweep, right? And you probably get hit by this all the time. And if you get hit by the first one, it jails. You cannot escape the second hit, which is why a lot of players will do this, because you see I'm hitting down to duck. As soon as I get hit by the first one, I can't escape it. It's automatic. If that first one hit, the second hit is automatic. But if I block it, it is plus 23. And fortunately, this move is plus 22. So this charge is plus 22, so I have plenty of time, if I recognize it, to get my punish out. So that's pretty much what I wanted to do. Now, there are some cases where if you know the move is coming out, right, you can low parry. So that is another option you can do for low attacks. But I'm going to show you why low parrying might not be the best option all the time. So the low parry, in order to low parry, you have to time the low hit and push down forward right when the move gets to you, and you'll low parry. Now, the reason why low parry is not always the greatest is because you don't always get that much damage off of it. Right? So I pretty much get about 35 damage if I low parry. Right? I might be able to get a third hit. Right? But it's around 30 some damage, right? Not terrible, but if I just block this, right, that was 54, and I didn't even get the full combo off of it. Right, so 58. So 58 damage versus a 30 some damage because I launch punished this instead. But that's pretty much this is pretty much how you can utilize this information of frame data and your attack information to help benefit you in practice mode. So if there's a specific move that you're getting hit by and you look at the data, you're looking at your replays, and you see that, hey, I blocked that, and it said that I was, plus, it said that I was like plus 12 on that, right? You probably have a punish for it somewhere. Now, the game usually does a good job of telling you what your punishes are if you watch the replays, but if you want to come up with some stuff on your own, there's another way that you can do it. And with that, we're pretty much gonna wrap up this video, and hopefully you were able to learn something with this, and I hope that you can utilize this information to further improve your skills and get better at Tekken and enjoy yourself. But with that, I will catch you donkeys next time, and peace out.